My name is Ken Hardie. I'm the Member of Parliament for Fleetwood Port Kells in Surrey, British Columbia, and I represent the Liberal Party. I saw some things going on in the country that I just simply didn't agree with the previous Conservative administration. I thought that the values that I had were being kind of offended, to be honest with you, and I thought, well, you know what? Rather than just sit on the sidelines and complain, I'll get in there and try and do something. Accomplishments that we've had are kind of split between what goes on here in Ottawa and what goes on at home in the riding. At home in the riding, we've taken on some really difficult situations on behalf of constituents, and we've been very successful at resolving them. Getting people into the country, that have had very hard times in their home country, to join family and spouses in some cases. Here, it kind of crosses over a little bit. I've been on the Fisheries Committee since 2015, and we've done some really good work, but particularly dealing with the troubles that our wild salmon populations are having in British Columbia and the difficulties in the coastal communities that need to be resolved. And so we're working very hard at getting new ways of thinking and new approaches. The biggest motivation I have is to try and exercise a little bit of self-discipline and not try and get deeply involved in every interesting thing that comes along. But every day brings, new ideas, new thoughts, new challenges, new opportunities, and at the very least, it's kind of cool to see them, make a note of them, and check back every now and again to make sure somebody's doing something about it. That's difficult to say. What did I learn after becoming an MP? Uh, there's kind of a frivolous answer, but it was found in some advice to new members that I read in 2015 that were published in the Hill Times. And they said, look, when you get to Ottawa, don't join all of the associations because you'll never have time, and don't go to all the receptions because you'll end up overweight with a drinking problem. And I have to give credit to the former Conservative leader Andrew Scheer, who is quoted as saying, nothing good happens in Ottawa after 8 o'clock at night. So, as I say, that's a frivolous answer, but the other things that I've done in corporate communication and in media really helped develop a really neat toolbox that applies perfectly to the job of being a member of Parliament and a parliamentarian. Working with fellow MPs is really, really easy in committees because quite often, we see a problem and it kind of shatters the party lines, and you just focus on, well, what can we do that's really good to help solve a problem or take advantage of an opportunity? In 2018, I sponsored a study at the Fisheries Committee that talked about the risks and benefits out on the West Coast fishery. There's some real, sort of fundamental problems there. This study was adopted unanimously by Conservative, NDP, Conservative and NDP members at that time. And the report that we presented to Parliament still has equity in the fishing community out there. In fact, we're meeting on it next week to see what progress has been made since 2019. But, my Conservative colleagues and my NDP colleague were absolutely right on, and we worked extremely well together. And, for people who watch Question Period and say, oh my God, look at these people, they can't get along and all the rest of it, forget Question Period. It's kind of a waste of time, to be honest with you. Look at a committee and see what the committees do, because that'll give you a much better idea of what it means to be a parliamentarian and how your government actually works. The biggest challenge that we have is isolation. This thing right here, gives us access to the world, But it also helps us build a bubble around ourselves where we can ward off any idea that doesn't agree with our preconceived notions, where we can really limit who we engage with. And it isolates us and makes us kind of insensitive to the sorts of things that as a parliamentarian we should be concerned about, but also just as citizens. So, to young people especially, critical thinking, the ability to trade minds with somebody, put yourself in their shoes, try and see the world through their eyes. Get yourself exposed to ideas that you don't agree with, because somewhere in there, there's something that could make something better, right? And these are the challenges that especially our young people face as they sort of grow into the job of running the country. There's a lot of really risky things going on out there that I didn't have to face when I was a kid. But our next generation of parliamentarians are going to have a different landscape and issues and problems that I never had to think about. What gives me hope for the next generation is the fact that when you actually engage them in conversation, they surprise you, that they have been paying attention. They have their own notions, their own values, etc., which they're kind of discovering as they go along. And I think that as they do that, the essence that Canada represents as a really true small L liberal democracy, a progressive society, tends to transmit itself from generation to generation to generation. And the fact that we believe in Canada in the common good, right? We're not all in it just for ourselves. We look after our neighbors. We care about the country and the environment and all of those things. I see that very strongly, in kids when I go to schools. As young as grade 5, they get it, right? So, I think we're going to be in good shape. If I was 16 again, I'd congratulate myself for not growing up with cell phones and cameras around, I'll tell you that. I think that I would keep doing what I thought maybe I should do, and that is to read, to engage in conversations with people about things, to talk politics. My dad and I talked politics all the time. So did my friends and I, but we were nerds, right? But, nerds rule the world sooner or later. But I think that the things that you learn along the way, don't forget them. It's that virtual toolbox that you carry with you that has all of the things that you've learned in your various experiences. If I had a chance to do it all over again, I probably would have gotten to politics 10 years earlier, because I think I was ready then, but circumstances being what they are, can't dial the clock back, but you can make the most of what you got now.